Breaking news. Breaking news. Breaking news. Breaking news. Yo, check it out. I'm gonna get 100% raw. I see this Dame and Cameron thing. I'm not even paying that no mind because that's two different leagues we dealing with. We dealing with a soldier that became a boss and a boss that was always a boss. So let's talk about the bosses. We're gonna talk about Jay-Z and Dame Dash. We're gonna talk about Brooklyn and Harlem back in those times when they got together. That's what we're going to talk about right now because you have to understand the rift that we had. Let's keep it 100. It wasn't a rift like no war, like no, oh, they ops or things like that. It was a different type because we was on a different type of mindset. We was on a mindset of, we number one and however we choose to move, So Brooklyn had laid back dudes, They had dudes that was more calculated, They was more demonic in their thoughts. There was more cutthroat in their thoughts. A Brooklyn dude back in the day, the way they was interpreted is that they sat back and looked for any Vic to come up with because at that time it was all about breaking the mother effing law. So Brooklyn dude thinking who he could rob. If a dude got a pair of sneakers on, and he wanted, he gonna take it. That's where Brooklyn dude mind was at back then. I seen dudes take dudes sneakers on trains and had them go home in their socks. And to keep it 100, I never seen nobody take nobody's socks from them. I just see them take the sneakers, right? It's like, let's ride. Cause we riding. Now check it out, right? It's like when I was in the county jail, over there in Jersey, make sure you hit that like button. When I was in the county jail over there in Jersey, I came in with that New York state of mind. So dudes that used to come in the dorm, they might let dudes at 8, 9 o'clock at night. We see what sneakers they got on, because that's all they let you in with your sneakers. Then they give you some bullcrap clothes. But anyway, so you see the sneakers they got on. I remember there was this one dude that had a pair of Jordans, the first Jordans that ever came out, them little flat Jordans with the hard sole. It was red, black, and white. You know what I'm talking about. But dude came in with a pair of those. He must have been about a size 13. My little crew, none of us feet was over a size 10. Maybe 9.5 was the biggest, right? But this dude had a pair of size 13s. We roll up in that joint and we see him and we like, oh man, we got him. So as soon as 12 o'clock came and it was time to turn the lights out, we just rolled up on him. My little man Godzuki threw the blanket over his head. So he got him locked in the blanket. And Godzuki, we call him Godzuki because you ever seen Godzilla? He looked like that, Godzilla's son. You understand what I'm saying? So now he got him out of blanket and he holding him and he wrestling. While he wrestling, other dude hitting him all in the head. Boom, boom. Dude hitting him in the body. Take him down. Grab his sneakers off and leave him on the floor with the blanket over his head. We called that a blanket party back then. I'm not bragging about it. I'm just telling you how it is in the prison. So if you young dudes listening, this is what's happening. I just saw a joint where T.I.'s son got locked up and they said he got, jumped and beat up the first day in the joint. I don't know if that's true, but that's what happened in the prison. Somebody like that go there, they call him fresh food. Make sure you go check out Unique Mecca Audio Prison Story over at YouTube. You want to hear these prison stories. And of course, you can check out my daughter Juanita Mecca Audio and Real Boss TTTV. That's the joint that you can sit back, listen to any type of music, and they got a vicious playlist. That's what I listen to. But anyway, because what we doing, we riding. But, so now I got to do sneakers, size 13. What am I going to do with a size 13 when none of us is over a size, 9.5, 10 tops? And a dude he took, wore the 10s because it was only a half a size bigger. You remember back in the days, everybody wanted their foot to look small. So everybody that I know, was a size 8.5. You remember when all the men, the young men, the teenagers, remember we all told everybody we're 8.5, And then we got older, we realized that, the bigger your feet, the bigger something else is what the women think. You know what I mean? So now we start, wearing size 9s, 9.5. Some even went up to 11. And believe it or not, our feet grew. You understand? And the other thing grew. You gotta let your toes breathe. Don't have your children out there in no tight shoes because they look cute. Because you're stopping his manhood from growing. So you have to give him shoes to let his feet grow that will let the rest of him grow equally. But back then, a lot of dudes used to confine themselves in those little 8.5s, and those are the girls. Those are the dudes. Once I got with their girls, it was a wrap. They knew the difference. Because my mother knew to give me shoes that let my feet breathe, to let everything breathe. But we ride. Now, but check it out. You know what? So we got to do sneakers, bottom line, when we in the jail. So that's what happened when you in the jail. That was a Brooklyn dude's mentality. A Brooklyn dude mentality back then, the way we interpreted that, they'll rob their own brother. They'll rob anybody. That's what they said about Brooklyn. I'm just keeping it 100. You know what I mean? Brooklyn grimy, man. You know what I mean? Back in the day, dudes said it. I'm saying it. We used to say straight up, yo, Brooklyn grimy. We wouldn't even talk to Brooklyn chicks. We're going to get into that, right? But that's Brooklyn. But then we're going to get into Harlem, right? But before we do that, let's start the intro. You know what it is, Unique Mecca audio, man. We're going to play this Jay-Z joint right here. We're going to break down the reason why, Jay-Z is a multi-billionaire, right? And Dame Dash is allegedly broke. I'm going to keep it 100. I don't pick sides. I know Dame Dash ain't broke. Y'all want to say he broke. And the crazy part is everybody that's saying Dame Dash is broke, they broke compared to Dame Dash. You know what I mean? So if you want to compare, Dame Dash to Jay-Z and then compare Jay-Z to, Warren Buffett or, Elon Musk, come on, dog. You're pulling things. Dame is not broke. Y'all sitting here going off. Y'all. And the crazy thing is, Dame, you focusing on them saying you broke. I seen the, the lake house. I know what's going on. Dame laid back like we want to get. Dame is where we at, and Dame, you coming from out of your comfort zone into this messy side of YouTube gossip. That's not you. That's not the boss from Harlem. I just let y'all know what a Brooklyn dude was like back then, and then now I'm going to tell you what a Harlem dude is like. You know what I mean? So I want to get up on the screen big so you can see me. Right? So we're going to talk about a Harlem dude. A Harlem dude back in the day, so you understand, a Harlem dude was more flamboyant because we grew up doing the watching the Nicky Barnes and the Frank Lucas and the Frank Matthews. Those are the names that we know. And they was fly, flamboyant. They was getting all the heroin money. They couldn't keep it to themselves. It was so much money. So they went out buying Cadillacs. I'm talking about when Cadillacs was like $25,000. I mean, oh, my bag. My bag, excuse me for lying. I don't do no whaling. Because I'm talking about back in the 70s when the Cadillac was like maybe $6,000, $7,000 for a Cadillac. You get a Grand Prix for like $3,500, $2,500. Brand new out the dealership. This when the cost of America was cheap. And these dudes are making millions of dollars when the top car in America costs under $10,000. Of course, they had 5, 10 of them. And here we go, growing up in Harlem, we watching that. So those was our role models. You know what I mean? In Brooklyn, they had what they call stick-up kids. You know what I mean? That's where the real 50 Cent come from, to give you the history. You got stick-up kids. So now you got the stick-up kids over there in Brooklyn. They looking for something to rob. And that was the rumor that a Brooklyn dude would rob his own whoever. You fill in the blank, But now Harlem dude, we fly, we from Florida, we got 125th Street, we got 116th Street, then we can shoot over to the Bronx, to Jew Man, come on. But then we got Fordham Road, then we got Simpson Street, come on. We got all the spots for the flyest gear. They didn't have nothing to do but Pickett Avenue. They had to come to Harlem to go to A.J. Lester for the grown-ups in Brooklyn. But then now us Jamaicans, we used to go over there to Layton's. Y'all remember Layton's over there on Broadway, I think like 46, 47th Street. You know, it had a joint called Layton's where we used to get the knit Gansies. You know, back then they was $150. You know what $150 is? A pair of Clarks back then cost $70. See, I'm taking you on a ride so you understand the mentality of these two men. So, you know, Dame grew up watching dudes going down to these places, spending this money, doing that. And Brooklyn dudes, they'll go right over there to the Clark store, get a pair of Wallabies, and, you know, it was a wrap. But then Harlem, you know, we had the British Walkers and the Playboys and the this and that. And it wasn't too many stores in Brooklyn that had them, if they even had them over there. But that was flooded where we was at. So that's where we got the fashion from. You know, and they got the name for the stick-up joint. Just like there's a joint that I saw yesterday. There was some girls on social media. I'm gonna get into the Jay-Z thing. They had some girls over there on social media, and the girls on social media, they robbed. You know, they was on like Tinder or something like that, and they get dudes to meet them in the buildings in Brooklyn, and then they robbed them when they come out the elevator. There was dudes there with the ski mask, and they rolled up on them, and did what they did. So now that's how that move out, right? So now that's a Brooklyn girl. That's how we labeled them. You couldn't, and I'm keeping it 100. Y'all can hate me. You couldn't give me 10 Brooklyn girls right now because I'm still traumatized from how they used to really set dudes up and dudes lost their life. I'm from that era. I'm not from the era where they set dudes up and they get beat up or shot at. No, they set dudes up, they rob them, and they put that right in the head. You know, a lot of comrades like that. But you could always tell a Brooklyn girl because they're more, aggressive. Their demeanor is more stronger. A Harlem girl is more looser, happier because it's all about the fly, the glitz, the glamour. We got light in Harlem, and it's like a cloud over Brooklyn because it was treacherous. That's why I can't believe the Brooklyn that I came home to after 26 years because Brooklyn was treacherous. I'm telling you, and that was the time of Mecca Audio. And I was in the middle of all of this. So now you got Dame the Fly Guy, you got, Jay-Z, the laid-back, calculated gangster that just know he's in charge and there's no one bigger than him. That's how a Brooklyn dude thought back then, even though they were stick-up kids and we was hustlers over there selling heroin and cocaine and all that, and angel dust and everything else. They used to come over there to get it for the few that was hustling over there. Just keeping 100 what it is. I'm 61 years old. You know what I mean? If y'all from back in the day, you know what I'm talking about. So they used to come over to Harlem, Washington Heights, Lower East Side. Everything was on the Manhattan side. They'll come hit that bridge because I was in Brooklyn then. So I already know I was over there on Schenectady. You know what I mean? Over there between Stone and Park. You know what I mean? Come on, let's keep it 100. I'm talking about when Delroy Uzi was out there. You know what I mean? And the crazy part is Delroy Uzi being out there was before Preacher was out there. Delroy Uzi was the first boogeyman uptown that I know of. If y'all know another boogeyman that was more vicious than Delroy during Delroy's time, you tell me. Because remember, Delroy was out there before Preacher. Preacher came after him, more doing the crack era type thing, moving up into the 90s. Delroy was there from the early 80s. And that was a boogeyman. I might tell y'all another Delroy story, but like I said, go to Unique Mecca Audio Prison Story and check out the prison stories. I'm going to give y'all a few, but you see, I mix it in and we just ride and do what we do. But those are the two Brooklyn dudes, and that's how that go. But then now, the two of them get together, and these two boroughs, that I just described to you, got together and tried to unite and be one to move forward. So you got Party, you know what I mean? Happy, enjoying life, and I'm going to get mine, trying to get together. So Jay-Z sat back and watched it, Dame doing what he do, just being Dame, being Harlem. But Jay is still being Brooklyn. You understand? And while Jay's being Brooklyn, he's laid back now and he's watching them and he see Dame has the light. But Jay know in his heart that he's the man to him. And that's how he expressed it by just sit back in the chair watching. But Dame know he's the man, and he shows it the Harlem way, throwing the money on, making it rain, popping the bottles, popping, and just doing us. When I first heard that these two men got together and created roc-a-fella, I was locked up in ADX Supermax, where they got El Chapo at right now, Pistol Pete, King Blood, I mean, come on, dog. Larry Hoover just got paroled out of there. I was in there at the time when this happened. So I don't know nothing but what, I read and what I saw and what I heard from the youngins that was coming in under me, because those are the ones that I listened to. And from listening to them, and I'm hearing that Brooklyn and Harlem is uniting and making a record label. I didn't hear nothing about roc-a-fella. I didn't know what it was, because remember, in the mid '90s, it was Bad Boy and Death Row. But as I heard about this, Brooklyn and Harlem together, all I said was good, good, or Google. I want to see how this is gonna work. And here it is how it played out. Like I said, Brooklyn is more laid back, calculated. So Jay laid back and just calculated his joint. You know what I mean? What he wanted, and stayed focused on his plan. When Dame did what Harlem do, we spend money because no one taught us what to do with the money when we get it. No one taught us that 30 years from now you might need to file for bankruptcy, so cut down on those bottles at the bar. No one told Dame that. He went to school, learned how to manage money, very intelligent. Like I said, he's one of the best, if not the best, person that I met in entertainment business so far. Because I learned a lot from him. He think I don't listen, but I'm not gonna let a nigga talk to me any kind of way. Everything that they saying about Dame, how he, what I mean? The same way Unique is. So you put Dame and Unique in the same room, and you got, you know what I mean? So Unique knows to say, breaks, walk away. You understand what I'm saying? Because I don't grew up. So I'm not gonna sit there and argue with any man. If we're both talking, then that means no one is listening, and I don't like to just talk. You know what I mean? I like to be listened to, and I like to listen to what the person is saying so I can enter into their mind and see their mindset, where they're at and how they're looking at whatever they're looking at, and so on and so on. And that's where I'm at, But Brooklyn and Harlem, record label? Come on, dog. And then now here it is, 30 years later, and Harlem from spending their money and Brooklyn from laying back, being calculated, stacking their money. I'm gonna keep it 100. Rumor was they not used to money compared to what we was getting on the other side of the water. And that's not disrespecting them, because you had dudes over there was getting plenty of money over there then. You know what I mean? Big shout out and round of applause, my man D Nice. Mike Lemon, Bob. Come on, man. You had real gangsters over there. But it was a handful compared to over in Harlem, because that's all we saw on every block. So everybody became that. In the blocks in Brooklyn that didn't see a hustle, they just picked up the take game. If he got it, he weak, I'm taking it. And that was a mentality that I brought when I told you in the county jail in Jersey, because that's how it is. But like I said, T.I.'s son locked up, he in for a rude awakening. That's why I tell y'all don't get involved in that, because it ain't worth it. Because you're going to wind up finding somebody tougher than you. I done got jumped by 6 dudes, got my tooth knocked out and everything else. I remember I already even told y'all, I got hit in the back of the head with a lock. Big, gotta say it. Big shout out to the dude that hit me in the back of the head with a lock. Round of applause to that dude. You know what I mean? You gotta give him a round of applause. Round of applause. All right, relax, y'all, relax. But that's what I'm saying, you know what I mean? You win some and you lose some. There's no one that never lost one. We got gangsters. You got Lou Sims. You understand what I'm saying? You got Anton White. And these dudes are dudes that got so many wins, you would think they never lost, but they have no reason to hide a loss they might have taken, because you got to take a L in order to take a win. But the way I look at it is, as long as you fight, you can't lose. If you throw a punch back and you get knocked out cold, and the fight is over and he's declared a winner, you're still a winner because you stood up to fight. That's the era I came from. You know you're going to get whooped, but you got to fight. Why put yourself in that situation? That's why I say it's not worth it. Don't go out there in the street, because this is the mentality that's out there, and this is the mentality I don't want you to follow. I don't want you to have the scars and demons and cold sweats and hot sweats and crazy sweats that I have at night to lay down for only 3 hours. I may get 3 hours sleep a night with all the demons that haunt me. So when you don't see me up here, I'm trying to get the demons out of me by just staying with my lovely mother, my family, and just relax. And I don't even turn on the YouTube. That's why I haven't been putting out a lot of videos, because the demons is out. I'm watching fathers tell on sons, man. My warrior demon want to come out because I'm not all the way healed yet. How could a father tell on a son? How could a dude sit there and I don't even want to get in it, man. It's just a lot of nasty stuff that I see, man. You know? And then even the 50 Cent Big Meat Something Tamer. You understand what I'm saying? That situation. 50 Cent looked out for this kid's boy while he was locked up and helped him become a man. So when he came home, his son, the man, had something to give him now. However much it was, however much he jacked off $1 million on $510,000 jeans and all that, that's irrelevant. He just did what his daddy would have did if he had it. But then when Meech crossed over and went to holler at Rick Ross and didn't let 50 know, that was the only violation. He didn't let 50 know, yo, I'm going to see what he's talking about because I'm just coming home and I'm trying to eat, homie. You know, I'm going to let you know what he's saying, then we work with it from there. He might have an idea that we haven't thought about yet. So let me go see what your snake got to say. I know how to play both sides of the snake. That's all he had to tell him. And 50 would have said, all right. And then he would have went and said, yo, you want to throw me a big welcome home concert? 50 said, man, that sounds good. All right, let's make it happen. Bop. And they would have moved forward. But then again, because we riding, 50 Cent do not want anybody coming out of jail or anybody, period, you know, that's black to rise higher than him. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a competitive spirit. That's why he goes at those that's above. You understand? So he's going to let you get where you need to be, but you got to stay under him because he's the king. And that's the queen's mentality. Because queens is calculated. They chess players. Look at Prince. They're chess players, man. 50 is playing chess right now. And he know that there's only one king on the board. He ain't got a problem when you're a bishop, a knight, a rook. He cool with that. Play your position, but know that I'm the king. He having a little trouble finding the queen, you know, with what happened at the Diddy trial, you know. But, you know, we all make mistakes. Don't forget Samson and Delilah. You forgot that. No, we ain't even gonna get into that because we ain't gonna get biblical right now. But that's where we at, right? So we're sitting there, and I want you to understand that these two men got together. Jay blew up. You understand? Blew up. Went overboard because he sat back and was just calculated, watching everything like a Brooklyn Don. Dame ran out acting like a Harlem king. Same as Dickie Barnes did. Same as Frank Lucas. You know, they all did. Pete Monsanto, big shout out to Pete. Round of applause to, you know, Pete and Fat Stevie. You know, and let's not forget Top, a.k.a. Tito. You know what I mean? We got men from that era. Relax, y'all. We got men from that era that was getting it. And those are the ones we learned from. They was driving the fly cars. Yo, dog, I remember when I was locked up, I heard dudes saying that Jay-Z the first one to put platinum on the map. And I laughed at that. You know how many old heads from Harlem was wearing platinum rings and platinum chains back in the 70s when I was out there? And we thought it was silver. That's why during the 70s, if y'all remember, you old heads, when we started wearing silver at one time, they started making the silver house medallions and the silver bracelets, the silver chain, everything like the gold chain during this era, because we saw platinum and thought it was silver. Us on the lower level that wasn't getting that King Heron money. I had a silver name chain, I think. You know, but I mean, I wouldn't have been ashamed if I had one because that was the mentality. But I see one in my head, but I don't remember owning one, you know, because I had all the gold joints, you know, the little, you know, the little herringbone with the, you know, with the Jesus priest or the, you know, with the dude that walk with the sheep, you know, those were the big ones back then. But that's how we did it. So that's what Dame was into. But Jay now, you know, laid back and stacked his as he spent his to show that he made it. Not knowing about taxes because whoever doing it, this and that, messed it up and just screwed it all up for him. You know, so now that's where they get together, and I knew it couldn't work. But who do you think is right or wrong? Been on here long enough, wanted to share that. I'm gonna do a part 2 to this. You want the part 2 where I can show the video, let y'all see. It's a video I wanted to react to, but this conversation had me in the mood to just, you know, share my opinion and, you know, give my wisdom, you know, of the history of Brooklyn and Harlem, because y'all have to understand that to understand Dame and Jay, because you turn back and you say, oh, Jay won't give Dame no money to bail him out. You know what I mean? There was never really friends like that. You understand? You had Brooklyn homies like that. That's what we call the Brooklyn dude. Those was our homies. You know, when you talk about the borough, dude didn't have, remember we kids, and the borough is like, you know, cross country. You know, so if you got a friend in Brooklyn, that's your man. You're not gonna say, I don't remember saying, like, that's my brother, and I'm living in, you know, running in Harlem or running in Brooklyn. It didn't happen that way. You know what I mean? So there was more like business associates, comrades, man. Dame, you was Jay's comrade. And Jay, I know Dame was your comrade. And that's what the relationship was. It was never a friendship. It's two men moving together to have the same end goal, but different ways and views of getting there. Remember to subscribe at Real Boss TTTV at YouTube for me, please. That's my man trying to get up on the algorithm. But, you know, that's where we at. All right? I'm going to do a part 2 to this, man. All right, let's tap out.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
How was that?
Fresh out the can of 26, yeah. He back on the strip, getting back in the mix. Yeah. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, make an audio. Moving like Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. They be horn uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yours. So we can give back to the
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.